Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel. I can be found pretty much everywhere as Welford Pearls and Woolen Spinning. So if you can't find one, use the other. But I'm on Instagram as Woolen Spinning. I'm on Ravelry as, I think I'm Woolen Spinning on Ravelry now too. Or maybe I'm still Welford Pearls. I'm actually not sure. That's a good question. I don't actually know. Oh yeah, I'm still Welford Pearls on Ravelry. I think of Woolen Spinning as like the podcast and the name of the podcast and sort of the business, and then Welford Pearls is sort of more like my username. So those two things I sort of think in my mind as being very separate. I hope you guys are doing really super well. It is Tuesday, November 21st, 2023 here in the greater Vancouver area of southern British Columbia in Canada. Live in the Pacific Northwest. I hope you guys are doing really well. I hope this finds you really well. I hope that you're finding the fall if you're in the northern hemisphere. I hope it's going well for you. I hope you guys aren't getting a lot of inclement weather. And if you're in the southern hemisphere and you're welcoming spring, I hope that's going really well. It's been really interesting because this fall, Mike and I have both been just kind of a little bit, I don't want to say like lower than normal, but just we haven't been feeling as energized and as energetic as we normally do. Both of us have been really struggling with energy levels and just feeling like, that get up and go that we are just so used to having. We're both real like doers. We're just constantly busy doing stuff. We like to be busy and engaged in whatever it is that we're doing. And both of us have been like dragging our butts a little bit. And I don't know if anybody else is feeling that way. Rebecca and I talked about it on the most recent episode of Woolen Spinning Radio, just talking about like energy levels and creativity this fall and sort of where we're at and how we're feeling. And yeah, it's definitely been something that I've been thinking about this fall for sure. It's really good to see everybody. I am wearing my newspaper pullover. This is a all over brioche. The whole thing is brioche. By Joji Locatelli, and I knit this back in the summer. Actually, I haven't had it for that long, but today is the inaugural wearing. It hasn't been cold enough, to be honest, to wear it. That's the link to my Ravelry page if you want to learn more about it. I talked about it lots on the podcast, so anybody who's curious about this knit, definitely have a look at my Ravelry page to get all of the details and whatnot, and you can go back to previous episodes. So I was wearing it this morning, but I had my parka on as well because it was a bit cool out and chilly. I had to scrape the car to get the kids to school, all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting because I haven't worn it yet, and this is gathering yarns in their fingering. And when I first put it on, I was actually really surprised at how prickly I felt like it was. But as I've been wearing it this morning and kind of just tugging at it and pulling at it and just kind of, feeling it, I've got an undershirt on. It's sort of started to dissipate a little bit. And I do find that when I wear stuff for the first couple of times, it is a little bit prickly. And then the more I wear it, the more that kind of dissipates. So I would definitely wear a long sleeve shirt under this if I had one that was a closer fit. Most of my long sleeve t-shirts are kind of more like t-shirts, and I need like a long sleeved like sort of an underlayer, like an Under Armour kind of a thing. Something. Anyhow, it's kind of nice to be wearing it, that it's cool enough outside that I needed a sweater. All right, let's chat a little bit about what is going on in the community. There's a lot happening, and I just want to give everybody a quick update. This month I talked about creativity and energy levels with Rebecca on Woolen Spinning Radio, which I already mentioned. That is available wherever you subscribe to your audio podcasts. So wherever you find your audio podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Google Play, iTunes, it's there for you. Just search Woolen Spinning Radio. If you enjoy it, if you don't mind taking a moment to rate and subscribe, that would be amazing. To leave a review. It really does help the podcast be found, the audio podcast. And we've got a new episode coming out for you on December 1st. Year of Color, we're almost done. Year of Color. I can't believe that this time last year we were just talking about it. We were just getting up and running. People in virtual spin group this morning were talking about their color wheels. They're still working on them, which is awesome. I can't believe we had talked about too earlier in the year about stretching Year of Color out over 2 years, but I think we're going to finish up in December. We're going to sort of, call it, because otherwise, because everything we do has to do with color. It's not like just because we've stopped our actual Year of Color, it's not like that conversation ends magically. So Color Harmonies is the last theory that will be released for the year. That is out now, both the vlog and the PDF. For those who are part of the Wool Circle, you get the PDF as well with the additional photography and notes and whatnot. And then the Wool Circle for November, Rebecca's been talking about corespinning and how to, which has been really cool. So if you guys are interested in learning more about corespinning, seeing some video of corespinning, her tips and tricks, all that kind of stuff, it's on the Wool Circle. And you just have to look on Patreon for the Wool Circle tier. And that streams on the opposite Tuesdays to the live stream. So there's always something at 10 a.m. on Pacific with the podcast now, which is kind of fun. That's kind of neat. Queries and Explorations is this coming Saturday, November 25th, and Spinning Staples is meeting with Rebecca tomorrow afternoon at 12 noon. So we've got lots going on in the community. And then, of course, we've got our Corespin along that I mentioned to you guys just a moment ago. So this is going on for the remainder of the year. Just to kind of bring us together, do something together. The examples of what you guys are making has been awesome. I've got lots to share with you in community participation. Corespinning is such a fun technique. It makes you a better spinner just overall, understanding twist, how much twist goes into stuff, the direction of twist, how it knits, just working with a different structured yarn when you take it to a knitted swatch. And I thought that we would pause here before we go on with all of the other stuff. I was going to put this below in spinning and have it as like a section and come back to it. But then I thought, you know what? We're talking about the Corespin along. We're building community. We're talking about all this stuff. I want to share what I'm doing for the Corespin along because I haven't shared yet. And I thought, what a great opportunity for me in this show to take a moment and share with you. So I have this fiber in my stash and it's this slightly garish kind of orangey yellow color, and it's actually not unlike my hair. It's just sort of a little bit brighter, and it's from Fleece and Kingdom Fleece and Fiberworks, and it's actually from the advent calendar from several years ago. And the reason why I pulled it out of my stash, I've got 2 of these. They're both 6 ounces, so a total of 12 ounces. My friend Laureline, who I think is here in the chat today, I might be wrong. Yes, there she is. For her advent, she got the white undyed fiber, and I got the sort of yellow, this sort of yellow mustardy kind of fiber. And what we decided to do was switch one of them. So I gave her, because we each got one of each, I think was the way that it worked. For the advent calendar for that year, you got a white undyed and then also the yellowy, this color. And so I gave her my white undyed and she gave me her mustardy yellow. One of these has sparkle in it and the other one is plain no sparkle. And this is so it's a total of 12 ounces. It's a fair amount of fiber of a Columbia Dorset cross. So I pulled it out of my stash. Laureline just finished spinning hers and I just thought, what am I hanging on to it for? I need to pull it out. I need to get some of this spun up. I want to get it spun up. And so what I did was on my e-spinner, I did this in one of the virtual spin groups recently actually. I took a whole bunch of kid mohair silk. This is just Drops brand. It's not expensive at all. I have a whole bunch of it in my stash, like balls, and they're all different colors. Like some of them are this dark brown, some of them are purple. They were just balls that I had collected over the years for different projects for the kids and sweaters for myself that never got made, or toques. I know one of them was a toque project I never did. Anyhow, I unspun this, and Crystal and Rebecca have been talking about unspinning these yarns before we add a bunch of twists to it to Corespin, because Corespun yarn acts very similarly to a single. So if you take a bunch of twist out of it, or a little bit of twist out, it doesn't have to be a ton. When you go to then spin the yarn, some of that twist that you've taken out now just gives you a bit of leeway in terms of putting in more twist and spinning from there. And so this is my little sample, and I thought the photos would be better for you guys to be able to see. There's still a bit of active twist in it, sort of what I would expect of a singles yarn, where it's still got some active twist in it. It's also been skeined and twisted up in the skein, so that's definitely part of it. But I was really happy with how this little sample came out. It's a little bit thick and thin. It has a little bit of texture to it. There's quite a few sweater patterns out there that use thick and thin yarns that the whole point is to have that slubby kind of look. And I thought, I'm just going to have some fun. If I don't use the yarn right away, or maybe I have so much yarn that I can super coil it. There's people always looking for super coiled yarns. Super coils is this type of a yarn. That's super coils. So here I've Corespun and then I made it into super coils. So I've taken the yarn and I've wrapped it around another core and pushed it up so it looks like an old telephone cord, for those of you who have been around long enough to remember those. And it doesn't matter because it's all in the name of play. So I've got this all ready to go to Corespin the next little batch. The biggest problem actually that I have found recently that's been the hardest part is I'm finding it really hard to carve out a lot of time to actually sit down at my wheel. It's one thing to be home, and it's another thing to be home doing what you want to do. And I think that's a gap that I've been experiencing for a really super long time, but it's even more profound now because the kids' schoolwork has become more demanding on me in terms of the amount of time we have to just spend just working on stuff. And so I'm home a lot, and we have a lot of quiet mornings where we're just kind of puttering through stuff, but it's not my time. It's time that I'm spending helping the kids with stuff. So that's definitely something that I've really found challenging this fall, particularly, is carving out any time where I can sit down at a wheel and work on stuff. And I don't know that at this stage of life there's really a fix for that. I'm sure I'm not on my alone in experiencing that, but it's definitely been a bit of a challenge this fall to try to find that time to sit down and spin. I haven't really spun very much this fall, and it's I'm finding that challenging in its own way. So that's definitely something I'm struggling with, but that's what I'm working on. I'm really hoping I can get some good progress on it before next show at the beginning of December. It'd be really great if I actually had one of these bags of fiber spun, because my plan would then be, because some of it's sparkle and some of it's not sparkle, right? So if I kept the two yarns, the two fibers separate, I could actually knit two stripes. So there could be two rows of non-sparkle, 2 rows of sparkle, 2 rows of non-sparkle, 2 rows of sparkle. That's kind of in my mind what I've got. And there's a couple of sweater patterns that I was sort of looking at that would actually work really well depending on how the swatch comes out, and they would be oversized and kind of just fun. I was even thinking a boyfriend cardigan, like the long, deep V-neck, plain stockinette, kind of oversized. There's so much you could do with a yarn like this, so much. So I will keep you guys posted. I will keep you posted. All right, the next thing that we need to talk about is all of the Zoom groups that go on in the community on Patreon, on the Slack channel. So when you join Patreon and you join the spinning circle or above, that gives you access to the Slack community. It's a very active, very busy community. And there's these grassroots groups that have started to pop up because people want to connect with each other in real time. So there's our fiber prep group and our weaving group, and they alternate with one another on Fridays at 8 a.m. Pacific. We moved it a little bit earlier to accommodate schedules. So 8 a.m. Pacific, every single Friday there is something. If you're not yet a weaver, but you're weave curious, you can head into that group and find out sort of where you might start. spin group is every Tuesday at 9 a.m. hosted by the very generous Glenda. The link is always posted in the Slack channel, same as weaving group and fiber prep group, and you guys can just jump in anytime. And we had a couple of people there this morning that were new, which was awesome. They're new to Patreon, new to the group, and I hope they felt really welcome. I didn't get a chance to say hello to anybody specifically because I was driving. I'm always driving on Tuesday mornings to get home and then prep for the podcast, but it's always so good to hear everybody's voices. And then we have a new Zoom group that Eve has started up. It's to accommodate some of the time zones in the Southern Hemisphere, because at this time I can't do that. And so it was lovely that she stepped up. So 9 a.m. GMT in the UK is 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, which is what they're meeting right now, and that will change as the year goes on, as we all shift back and forth between daylight time and standard time, and all the time changes and stuff. So the links will be posted in the Slack channel, and if you grab the link for the Google Calendar in the Slack channel, you'll be able to plug that into your own calendar and see where everything lines up, because it'll adjust to your time zone. Finally, book club. We are working on Deeming Copperhead right now by Barbara Kingsolver. Even if you don't finish the book, Monday, December 18th at 12 noon Pacific, 8 p.m. GMT is when Becca will be hosting the meeting for that book to discuss that book, and we'll meet that day. I hope you guys are enjoying that book thus far. I know quite a few people are reading it, and I'm catching up. It's been really fun to do that. So, all right. In the rest of the show, I've got, let me just have a look. I've got I talked about the spinning already and what I did with my yarn and taking out the twist and everything. And I hope that that's helpful for those who are just starting with Corespinning. And if you want to have your hand held a little bit more and walk through it all a little bit more in depth and alongside someone, joining the Wool Circle would be the place to do that with Rebecca. So I've got some knitting to talk about. You can see Diana in the background. She's all dressed and ready to go to model all of her stuff. And then fortunately, for the non-weavers in the group, we have a bit of a weave-heavy episode ahead of us. So I hope that's okay for the non-weavers in the group, for those who haven't yet started. But that is kind of the nature of the beast right now, because I actually can sit down at my looms because we moved our house around quite significantly over the last couple of weeks, and both of my looms are moved into areas now where I can actually weave while the family's doing other things. That has made a big difference. And so I'm hoping that from a weaving perspective and a spinning perspective, that will start to change a little bit over the coming weeks. So without further ado, let's run the credits, and I'll see you guys on the other side.
A thank you to our sponsor, Brother Drum Carder. They are dedicated to giving you the very best of carding products with a focus on quality, affordability, and customer satisfaction. They are building mill processing equipment, so please stay tuned. Be sure to check out the new products on their website and follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Brother Drum Carder.
Okay, so I actually had things queued up to talk about my weekender, which is the green sweater first. But I think because it's over top, we should actually talk about Trinigan first. So let me just move things around a little bit, and we will, I'll pull her forward, and we'll get right into it. And I'll just queue up my slides and get myself organized, because that's like really important. There's all these things that I have to work on, and we'll talk about Trinigan first. All right, so I actually made some progress with Trinigan, finally. This is a pattern. We're talking about the grape jelly cardigan, the drop shoulder, the big oversized. We're going to talk about this first. We'll talk about this one next, but let's talk about grape jelly first. So this is Trinigan by Andrea Mowry. And you can see that this is meant to be an oversized sort of very roomy type sweater, not close fitting at all. It's supposed to be really relaxed. And I thought what would be helpful is if I showed you guys sort of what it's supposed to look like. So as we go through, I'll just sort of let the photos cycle, because there is a photo in here of Andrea wearing the sweater, and of course it's her photo and copyright her photo. But basically, when I cast this on, I had bought this yarn. I've talked about this a lot over the time with the kids, with you guys on the podcast, and Nora was really in love with this yarn when I brought it home, and I don't think I'm going to have enough left over to actually do something for her, but I was, I kind of brought it home. Rebecca kept saying to me, like, are you sure? Like, that's really pink. And it's a cool pink, which is a little bit challenging because it is a very cool, it's not a warm, like this is a very warm pink. It's almost kind of a bit salmony. It's a very, next to the brown, it's very, yeah, it's warm. With this pink, it's almost got a gray blue undertone to it, and it's quite cool. And so when I brought it home from Fibers West, when I bought it, I think I said Knit City, but I meant Fibers West. I actually, where's the photo from that I threw it in here for you guys to show you the photo of Andrea wearing the cardigan so that you guys would be able to see it, but it's not coming up. So let me just see. Because I want to pause on the photo of her. It's not coming up. So let me just, one sec here, you guys. It has been crazy this week. We have had so much going on. My mom had a minor procedure. And she's doing really well, but it's kind of been on the top of everybody's mind, helping and supporting her, because she lost the use of her left arm for a few days, and we've just been, I think I've kind of felt a little bit distracted as a result of just having other stuff going on. She's doing really well. She's healing really super well. She just had to have a little something taken off. It wasn't anything major, but it's like it affects the whole family, right? So in the photo, part of the reason why I chose this was because I was really having trouble with the colors and the pink, and I just loved the pink so much. I don't know why. I really like this raspberry color. It's not a great color for me. It's okay, you guys. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I know some will be like, no, it's a great color on you. It's not. And it is because it's not, they're not colors that I generally wear, so I don't feel like super, super confident in them and like I'm really kind of rocking it, Whereas like this is totally my colors and I feel really comfortable in it and I really like these colors. I love these colors on other people. And so I just wanted to stretch myself a little bit, kind of get out of my comfort zone a little bit, just do something a little bit different. And when I saw this photo of Andrea, I loved it because it's just color. It's a celebration of color. The orange in the spin cycle contrast yarn that's against the main color of that tealy blue, like it's got so much pizzazz, right? Like it's just kind of it's fun to look at. She's got the cowl with it. She's got her crazy kind of I think it's a jumper that like we would call it a jumper in North America, or like a it's not a onesie, but it's kind of like that. I think she made it, and it really seemed really fun. And so when I was going through my stash, I was looking for different yarns that would go with that pink, and this is kind of where I landed. And you can really see when you're up close, the contrast yarn just really works really well with it because the contrast colors are quite cool. And I don't think I ever shared with you guys on the show the yarn. I don't think I ever showed you, and I had it all queued up and ready to go. So why isn't it here? This is so weird. I had a whole bunch of slides for you guys that I had ready to go for you guys, and they're they've like disappeared. They're gone. They're not here. Isn't that weird? Anyhow, I'll show you guys next time, rather than farting around with it and trying to generate them for you. I'll show you next time. But the yarn, the fiber had these cool blues and it was a combo spin from a couple of years ago. And because of those cool blues in there, and they're almost kind of like a purpley color, it really worked quite well with that cold pink. And I think that's why in the end, I kind of have ended up really liking and enjoying the process of kind of working with these very different colors from what I normally would wear. The one thing I will say, tubular cast-offs. So this is a tubular bind-off. This is a tubular bind-off and cast-on. Same with this. I totally get it. It makes a really nice cuff. Don't get me wrong. I really appreciate tubular cast-offs. When it's 2x2 rib though, and you have to move the stitches around, I did this several times and I'm still not happy with how it looks. You have to move your stitches so that it's 1x1 rib right at the end, and I don't know, it just doesn't look very nice, and it flares out a little bit. So to accommodate sort of the moving of those stitches and the bind off, I think I kind of started to like nail it on the back side, but honestly, I'm gonna rip it out again, and I'm just gonna do a standard bind off. Like I tried 3 or 4 times. I'm really good at Kitchener. I'm very even. It looks great on all of my other pieces. But for whatever reason, going from the 2x2 rib to the tubular cast off, it just, so I'm going to rip this out unless somebody has like a really like skookum way of doing it. I just don't love it. Eve is asking to see the inside. It looks like hearts. This could be the right side. This would be an amazing stitch pattern, except that it's actually like floating. But isn't that gorgeous? So you can really see the colors of the contrast yarn on the wrong side. Whereas because it's mosaically knitted, of course it hides it on the wrong side. And this is the back. Sorry, Diana moved off the screen there. So that's that. And you seam this, so you actually cast on stitches when you do the back and the front, and you knit up to really emphasize that drop shoulder. So the drop shoulder comes way down because you've actually cast on stitches, and you seam it, and then you pick up for the arm, and you knit that in the round. This was very fast. It's only like 7 or 8 inches of knitting. It was very quick. I did add an extra inch to the cuff. I think in the pattern it calls for 1 inch, and I think I did mine more like 2 inches. I just like a little bit heftier of a cuff, especially because it's 3/4 length sleeve. So that's Trinigan. And I think like overall, like I've still got the big collar to do that goes around the front. This isn't going to be worn a ton. I may end up passing it along to a friend if somebody wants it, but it's been really fun to make, even though it's taken a long time. A really long time. Christine's asking maybe an applied I-cord edging would work. That's not a bad idea, Christine. Actually, I like the look of I-cord edgings, especially, yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'll think about that. Anyhow, moving right along. It's nice actually to be able to show this to you guys right now because there's no balls of yarn attached to it because I haven't picked up for this side yet. And I can show you really quickly. There's a lot of ease. Like you can see it on Diana, but when you put it on, you can really see it's got a nice feel to it. Like it's, it fits nicely. It's got a nice, and the collar's not on yet, but yeah, from that standpoint, it's really nice. I quite like it. So, and I've mentioned this before on the podcast, and I got a couple of people say like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe you would do that. But if I don't wear that like raspberry kind of color, like if I find that it's just in my closet and it's not being worn, I could over dye it very gently with like just a wash of a light color, like a very light gray or a very, very, very pale light purple, and just kind of darken it a little bit. It wouldn't ruin it at all. And it would bring some cohesion to it without losing the texture. I'm fighting a cold. I can feel it like in my throat and stuff. And I made sure I had lots of liquids with me for the show, but I am also feeling my voice. Like when I get sick, I almost immediately lose my voice. And I can just feel like I've been fighting something for probably the last 10 days. The kids were both really sick, but they kicked it like that really, really fast. And then Mike went down and he was sick. He never gets sick. And when he does, it's like a 24-hour cold and he's over it. It's really unusual for a man because men do tend, I know we all say, oh, you know, if a man gets sick, it's like the world is ending, but they really do get sicker, which probably has something to do with like evolutionary biology, and women had to like just keep on trucking so we just don't get as sick, blah, blah, blah. There's probably something in that. But Mike is he's really like, he just doesn't get sick, and it'll be like 24 hours. And he went down this fall. Like he's been quite like this cold really got him for the last he's probably coming up 2 weeks now, but he hasn't been feeling great, and I can feel it now that I've been definitely fighting it for sure. All right, let's talk about Weekender, because I actually feel like I finally made a bit of progress on Weekender. So because Diana was all dressed up in one of my collared shirts and she has a skirt on and stuff, this isn't the best outfit to show Weekender on her because of the collar and everything, because the way that the collar of the Weekender is, it's kind of a boat neck, and so it doesn't show, this is kind of in the way, so I'm sorry about that. But this has really come along. So last week I had this all pinned and I was sort of having difficulty showing you guys, and I said next show I'm hoping I'll have had a chance to finish it. So I got the 3-needle bind off done across the top, and I got all the Kitchener across the tubular cast off. I got that all done on the front and the back, and it has a really nice finish to it. Like that is definitely worth the extra effort to do that rather than just a traditional bind off. Like the tubular bind off at the top of this, it is worth it. And I restarted, for those who are in healthcare and know what I'm talking about, I had to restart my ACLS on Friday, and they gave us almost an hour for lunch, which was fine. I would have rather like gotten on with the course and gotten it done, but I got my stitches all picked up. Just catch the light here so you can see. I've got all the stitches picked up, and I've actually started, but I've started the sleeve. Because I lengthened the front and the back yoke, I lengthened the back by about 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches, and the front I lengthened by a full inch. I have more stitches on the sleeve than the pattern calls for. So I actually, I need to try it on and see kind of how I need to start decreasing, because I either have way too many stitches and it's going to be way too big, which I don't think so, and it's a drop shoulder, so it's got lots of forgiveness. I just need to figure out when and how often I need to start doing my decreases, because they're different from the pattern. So I either will follow for the stitch count for the bigger size and follow those decreases, or I need to come up with my own so that by the cuff I end up with the right number of stitches. So, but I'm really happy with this. You can see the back is quite a bit longer. You guys know how I feel about length. I love stuff like this being a bit longer. You can tuck it in the front of your jeans if you want to, or you can just leave it out and relaxed and comfy. So I'm excited to have this done. I did have some slides to show you guys of the original yarn so that you can see how this has ended up knitting up. So this was the combo yarn, and this is what the yarn looks like in the skein, and you can see how in the sweater what's ended up happening with those areas of magenta, and there's areas of that gorgeous tealy blue kind of it's not royal blue, but it's just got that beautiful blue in there. What's ended up happening is in the finished yarn there's like hits of those colors, and then you've got areas where the magenta spun for a while along with the other colors. So like through here at the top of the yoke is all like the magenta was really coming through. Same with down here, but then in real life, on the camera it looks quite stripy. In real life there's a real cohesion to it. Like I wouldn't feel like I was walking around with these like really dark stripes like it looks like on the camera, and it's just the camera trying to figure out where to look and what to highlight. Same on the back. This is actually very neutral and very cohesive, more so than what the camera is showing with the striping. So that worked out really well. And you can even see like in the knitting here, it kind of looks like there's a lot of striping and that there's a lot of, striping. But if the swatch was bigger and it was like maybe like more like 10 by 10, I think a lot of that would dissipate and would go. The other thing that I could have done, and I would like to try this next time. I'm glad I didn't do it this time only because it'll be nice to have a comparison. But what I could have done was done a row of one skein, a row of another skein, a row of one skein, a row of another skein, and alternated them, which a lot of indie dyers recommend. To mix, so that if there's any discrepancies between the different dye lots, or even between one yarn and another yarn out of the same dye lot, that'll be minimized as much as possible, and it'll prevent pooling. That would have been an option in this, and so I actually think I would try that next time so that I have a comparison. Is it worthwhile to carry two yarns at the same time? Is the extra effort worthwhile, or is it too much of a headache and it doesn't make that much of a difference? So yeah, Eve says my mom is always the same. She always loses her voice. I attribute it to years and years and years of lifeguarding and teaching swimming lessons in a really, really busy environment that was so loud that you're yelling shift after shift after shift. And I think it weakened my vocal cords. Some of the lifeguards that I work with develop nodes on their vocal cord from strain. And I often wonder, because I think because my voice was just never the same after those years. It is quite lustrous, Charlotte. It's amazing. I think it's the silk, because this is Polworth and silk, and I'm actually quite surprised at how it has a sheen to it. It's really lovely. I am not disappointed, that's for sure. I wish I had the photos. I don't know where they went. I had them all queued up and ready for you guys. I don't know where the photos went of the yarn photos for Trinigan. So I'll make sure that I have those queued up and ready to go for you guys for next time, because I was really excited to share with you the photos of what the yarn looked like originally. I combo spun them, and then to have the finished Trinigan fabric. It'll be really cool for you guys to see kind of that evolution, because I don't think I've shared that on the podcast, but I'll queue it up and have it ready to go for next time so that you guys can see. Sam says my Weekender is my most worn jumper. I have heard that from several people. It heartens me, because this has definitely been a lot of work in fingering weight on 3mm needles, which I think are US size, help me out you guys, US size 3. Is that right? 3mm needles? I think I have 3mm right here actually. Or these are 2.75s. So these, yeah, US size 3, because these are a US size 2. Yeah, because I downsized the needles because the fabric was a little bit too gauzy. On the 3.5mm or US size 4, I was getting 22 stitches over 4 inches, which I think is gauge for the pattern if my memory serves, but the fabric was a little bit gauzy, just a little bit gauzy. And based on, I've talked about this before on the show, based on what I've learned and what I've been seeing when I have the appropriate set on the loom with weaving, it's really changed how I approach knitting yarn. And I like I said, I've talked about this before, but we'll just talk about it for a sec before we transition into weaving, because it's really informed and changed the way that I approach my knitting swatches. I don't want to mix up what I'm saying, because in weaving, when I was working on my unit 1 and then also just, you know, playing on my own and doing different stuff and mostly working from my own patterns and making my own drafts and whatnot for weaving, I've really noticed that in weaving, set, I don't want to say it's more important than in knitting, but it's different, because if you get your set wrong, or you don't take that time to do that initial sampling to kind of figure out what the ideal set would be for those yarns in that situation woven with that pattern, once you weave the thing, which we'll talk about later, you can't do anything about it. Like, it's woven, it's done. You can't unweave very easily. Some would say you can't unweave. So with knitting, you can always rip back. And there was a real movement in knitting, probably, what do you guys think? Probably about 10 years ago. Probably started about 12 years ago and then sort of peaked about 10 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. Where knitting gauge was really being pushed to the top end of like gauzy fabrics, 4mm, 5mm needles, so US size 6 and 7 with fingering weight or lace weight yarns, and sweaters, cardigans, all that kind of stuff at really, really, really drapey loose gauges. Makes the knitting go really super fast. It doesn't use as much yarn. Some of the more expensive yarns, it means you don't have to buy as much. There's a lot of reasons for for doing that. But what I've really found is that as I've built my weaving knowledge and built and understand more and more what's happening in the fabric with weaving fabrics, and I come from a sewing background, and my mom's a beautiful sewer, and I'll pick her brain every so often about sewing fabrics. I've started to really appreciate that the set or the gauge needs to be right. And I'm not as afraid anymore to recognize that something's too gauzy and too open in knitting and to downsize. And I think 5-10 years ago, probably even 3 years ago, I would have felt like it's too much spinning, it's too much yardage, I don't want to do that. I'd rather knit it in a more open gauge so that I can maximize my yardage and I don't have to spin as much, and sort of a list of excuses. But the thing is that then the finished item, it's just not quite structurally right. It needed to be knit on smaller needles, or it needed to be there needs to be a single added so that it takes a 2-ply to a 3-ply and just gives you a slightly rounder yarn, and then still knit on those slightly smaller needles. All those different tweaks and all those different things, I've really come to realize how they really do make a huge difference in the caliber of your workmanship and in the fabric. And there's just no cutting corners. You just can't. It's just fact. For my aesthetic and what I'm going for and what I like. And I think one of the things that I've really noticed is some of the stuff that I knit where I push the gauge, where it is more gauzy and more open and it's not quite as tightly knitted as it could be, or I needed to add that extra single to make that slightly rounder, plumper yarn, whether it's a 3-ply or a 4-ply. I think it's the pilling. They just don't wear as well. And that's what when you're putting in all that time and effort, it's worth it to slow down and to add that extra single to make that plumper, rounder yarn, or to go down needle sizes for slightly for more structurally integral yarn. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to weaving, because that's the bulk of what I have to show you. So let's do that next. I need to ask you guys, I can ask Rebecca later because she helps me with the show notes and stuff after the show. She does all the timestamps. So thank you, Rebecca. When the credits roll for the section dividers, is there any music? And if so, is it too loud? Because I can adjust all of that and I need to know. But I'm pretty sure the music isn't playing today because that was the tech issue that I had before we started. I was like, oh, here we go. All of the videos dropped off. They all of the section dividers, and so I popped them all back in. But then I was like, I don't think there's any music on any of these. So if you guys could let me know, that would be awesome, because I want to make sure that the music going forward isn't too loud, and that it fades in and fades out nicely so that it's not so jarring. I was like, blah, 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 and then nothing. So yeah, no music. Thank you, Ellen, because I was pretty sure there's no music. So I just want to know. I'd rather have no music than have it blast at you. So Small wins. All right, weaving. I have a lot to show you, and I have two different projects to share with you. They're both finished. They are photographed, they are done. So let's talk about the Overshot first. So I talked a little bit about this, quite a bit actually, last show. I think it's Eve, another Eve. She says, yes, we're missing the happy music. Yeah, totally. So I did these. We have a few really big birthdays coming up next year in our family. There's 3 people in my family, all turning 40. And I wanted to do something for 2 of them. I guess 3 of them, but my brother already has something from me that's woven. He's already got a scarf. But for my 2 sister-in-laws, I wanted to do some woven stoles for them. And so what I did was I came up with these. These drafts are out of Marguerite Porter Davidson's pattern book. So you guys can go and have a look. It's on page 93, I think. I think it's 93. It's under the small motifs, overshot, the small overshot motifs. And nope, it's not on page 93. It's somewhere. The draft is really super, it's quite simple, but it's very effective. And it gives you 3 different treadling options. And then of course, from there, you could come up with anything on your own. So you could plug in, you know, whatever treadling variations you want to plug in. You could do rose path, you could do, you know, bird's eye, you could, I mean, your imagination is the limit. But there are 3 treadling variations that she gives you in the book. And I drafted them out on Fiberworks, and I organized them because I knew that I only had wound a warp long enough for 2 stoles to start with. And what I did with part of the warp was I actually did this little sampler, which I showed some of you guys. And I just have to make sure I have it the right end. So I'll go to the big camera. Actually, you know what? I'll go to this camera so you guys can see. So this is my little sampler. So this is superwash merino nylon set as the pattern yarn. So that is floating over top of the ground fabric, which is the 8-2 cotton at 16 ends and 16 picks per inch. So this kind of taupey gray is the ground. So if you were to cut away all of this pattern yarn, all of the sock yarn, this red, gorgeous kind of rusty color, if you cut all of that away, theoretically you would have a 16 ends per inch, 16 picks per inch. Picks per inch are is the weft yarn building up on top of itself to make the fabric. You would have that fabric underneath. So when we talk about overshot, it's a supplementary warp structure, weaving structure, where you have an extra yarn traveling across that you don't need for structural integrity. The thing that I've really noticed with this kind of stuff is this is the full width of the warp that I put on the loom, and I miscalculated my threads for my edging because I wanted this to mirror over here, and I messed up on my stitch counts. So ignore the sides. But setting it at 16 ends per inch with this particular sock yarn, and it was the same with the other one as well. So the 2 sock yarns, you know, they are sort of roughly like 18 wraps per inch kind of thing. It's a little tiny bit stiff. It's a little bit, it's nice. But again, set makes or breaks your fabric. If this had been opened up to 14 ends per inch, even 15 ends per inch would have just been that little bit gauzier, a little bit looser. I think these would have been perfect. And if I'd set it at 14 ends per inch, I could have, I wouldn't have had as many ends, right? Because you open it up, it would still be sort of 14 inches wide on the loom. It ended up being about 13.5 inches finished after washing, and I pressed it very hard. I didn't put it in the dryer. I put these through the washing machine on just regular cycle. I talked to Lisa about it before I did it. I was like, what would you do? And she told me, and I hung them to dry. And then when they were like 85% dry, I gave them a really hard press, just like Laura Fry shows in her workshops on the School of Sweet Georgia, but also in Long Thread Media, some of the old stuff that she recorded years and years and years ago. So this bottom one here is the first treadling that they give in the book. And then the second one is the second treadling, and the third one is the third treadling. So this is the one that I didn't get to do the entire stole, but I love this. I love the effect of the 3 picks to get that block here. And then you've got that same kind of, it's almost like an eye that you get here, very similar. And then these are circles. And these are, what was really fun was because you've got these lines here in the diamond, you could make sure that you were keeping yourself on the 45. And so I knew whether or not I was, getting circles or not, because I knew if I was on the 45 that I was okay. So thanks, you guys. They said very lovely, very pretty. Thank you, you guys. So this is my little sampler. And that was actually really fun to do because it was fun to see the treadling variations back to back to back as I worked. And then this is the stole. So this is the first one, and there was a change in the yarn. So the beginning of the yarn was this, and then halfway through the ball, not even halfway because this is longer, probably like a third, maybe a quarter of the way through, the yarn changed. So I don't know if it's because it's been in my stash for probably about 14 years. And this was maybe exposed to light or something. I'm not sure, but they're very, very different. But when you're wearing them and when they're on, it actually looks kind of neat because it's just a little bit different. It's kind of nice. And then this one, so this is Sweet Fiber. It's old sock club from years and years and years ago. Like I want to say like 14 years ago. Like I want to say like 2009, 2008. And then this one, I'll just drape it out here for you guys. This is Tofino Knit Co. I bought this yarn on a whim at Fibers West with Rebecca last spring, like this past spring. And I usually don't buy skeins of sock yarn. I do have quite a few in my stash, but I don't normally, but I've kind of amassed them over the years. I don't tend to buy skeins of sock yarn. First of all, because I'd rather spin a skein of sock yarn. And second of all, because I don't really buy yarn per se. Like I'll buy the odd sweater quantity. But this one I treadled the circles. It was a little bit harder to see because it's a little bit lower contrast. I love the look of that lower contrast. And this colorway is called Falling Leaves. It's not available on the website at this time. You could probably contact her and get it done. But I just thought this ended up being really pretty. It's not as long as the other one. The sock yarn, the yardage wasn't quite the same. It was a little bit less. And I think going forward, this one could actually have been a little bit narrower, maybe by an inch or two, so that you would get the yardage and get it a bit longer. So if you opened up the set, because again, this is a little bit firmer, and I even wore it yesterday, and I really can only drape it around me because it is stiff, but it's so pretty. I love it. It is really, really pretty. I do really like it. These are totally some of my favorite colors, especially that peach in there and that yellow ochre. But anyways, I think if you opened this up to 14 or 15 ends per inch and then made it a tiny, tiny bit narrower on the loom, oh my goodness, you would really be able to, you'd have just a fantastic length. This one wove to about 72 inches, but this one wove to about 76. And this is a better length to put around your neck. But yeah, I'm really happy with how they turned out. I guess you guys can probably tell. The cloth, it doesn't have great drape. It's okay. It needs to be a little bit more open, like I said. And I had a really helpful conversation with Lisa. She is so helpful, and she really likes mentoring, loves mentoring, weaving, like people who are engaging in their weaving and have questions and stuff. So if you're curious about some of this stuff, like definitely come to Weave Group on Friday mornings, because it was good to just talk it out. And this sock yarn, this is sock yarn. Like it's not that it's not forgiving, but like it's slightly higher twist. It's a little bit tougher in terms of like, it's got the nylon added, same as with this. They just need a slightly more forgiving set. So I would definitely open these up to probably 14 and then compare. What I would do is I would open it up to 14, compare the two samples, and then I would do another one, a third one at 15 ends, and then compare the three and see which one would give me what I'm looking for, if that makes sense. So yeah, very, very happy. They have an ecclesiastical look to them. Yeah, they're kind of more like stoles, to be honest. Like I would pin this I'm going to keep both of these. These aren't going to be gifts. I'm putting another warp on to do more for my sisters-in-law. But what I would do is I would pin this, and I would wear this to the theater. I would wear it to a Christmas Eve service. This very much has the feel to me of like dressing up. This one also has quite the sheen to it. It's quite iridescent. Unfortunately, the camera and the photos can't catch that, but the superwash merino and then the nylon content is just shimmery enough that when you look at it on an angle, it's got quite an iridescence to it, and that's the play of the light and the light bending in the fibers and reflecting back to our eye. And you can kind of see it down here. It's just got like this slightly iridescent quality, which I was just like, oh, that's so cool. So very, very fun. Yeah, thank you. Oh, I didn't mention that. That's a great question, Christine. I did both of these on my Louette spring. So my spring was empty. I had my next project that I'm going to talk about on my jack, on my Leclerc jack. And I actually am really glad I did these on the Louette spring because they weren't as wide. I didn't need my 45. My spring is 36 inches wide. These were 14. I was able to warp it myself. I didn't have to get Mike to hold my warp chains or anything. I could just wind it on myself. And the threading went really super quickly because there's not that many threads. It was about 200, and 200 threads is like no threading. It feels, there's a disconnect there. Of course, the towels that I'm threading right now are like 500 ends. Like, when is this going to end? It was a really nice weaving experience. It felt really fluid. It was a really nice. I would also have been happy to do these on one of my table looms. They would have flown off as well. They did weave off in just a few weeks. It was very fast. So yeah. So my Louette spring. And then before I threw these on the spring, I also had played around with a draft that I really wanted to figure out what I could do. I have the photo here for you. Here it is. So let me just pause here. So I was playing around on Fiberworks with the idea of sort of a Huck Spot. And this is where you've got, on the one side, you'll have weft floats. And if you've got weft floats on the one side, then on the other side, you're going to have warp floats. And Huck is one of my favorite structures. It's just such an easy introduction to laces. It makes sense. It's not overly complicated, but I love the look of Spot, whether it's weft Spot or warp Spot. So with these towels, I decided to do weft Spot. So that means that across the fabric, there's weft floats. I wanted them offset. I wanted some plain weave in between to stretch them out. And I was playing with this on Fiberworks and figuring out the treadling and how that would all work. And I got them onto the Leclerc jack. I warped up enough to do about 8 towels, and that went really well. I chose these 3 colors for the warp. So I had them striping, basically the blue in the middle, the kind of rusty brown on the one side. You can see it here. And about 1.5 inches hem for every single towel, 30 inches long, about 20 inches wide. I like slightly bigger towels. And on Thursday night, I was totally procrastinating about studying for ACLS because I was trying to figure it out. I think this was my 9th or my 10th time recertifying my ACLS. Like, I know my stuff. I've done it for a long time. I've been in many, many, many codes. I've done CPR many, many, many times. It's stuff that I'm very, very comfortable with. So I was totally procrastinating about looking at my books. I recognize that. It was totally me. But I decided to hem all 8 towels, just bang, bang, bang on Thursday. So if you want to know how long it takes to hem 8 towels on the machine, I didn't do them by hand. It took me 2 hours to hem 8 towels. It was like 1 hour and 45 minutes. So I have 8 towels. And of all of them, you can see here that I have the blue and the brown, and then I've got that brighter blue in there, and then it goes on. I found as I was weaving them off that the towels that worked the best were the ones where the weft was the same color as the warp. Because originally I thought I'll just do them scrappy and I'll just switch colors whenever. But it didn't really work very well. And so a couple of the towels, I think there's 2. This one is kind of scrappy because of that bright blue in there, and the brown that's in the first part isn't this weft brown isn't the same as that rusty color brown. And one of the other ones, this one here, so there's 2 that kind of went off script a little bit. They weren't the colors of the warp. They didn't work as well. They're pretty. I like them. They're totally fine. I'll still put them either in the Etsy shop or I'll keep them. If anybody ever wants to look in my Etsy shop, it's thewoollenspinningshop.etsy.com. And what I've decided to do is with my tea towels, when I warp, I'm going to warp an extra 2 or 3 on every warp. So instead of only weaving off like 6 or 8 towels, my plan is to sort of going forward always weave off 11 or 12, and that would free up 2 or 3 to put in the Etsy shop to sell. And I'll let you know as I do that. 2 of these towels are going to my mother-in-law for Christmas, and because these are her colors in her kitchen. And then the other, I'll decide what's going to happen with the other 2, and then I'm hoping that about 2 or 3 will go into the Etsy shop. But these ones where I stuck with the same warp and weft, so I didn't use scrap bobbins, they just worked better. They have a better cohesion to them. You guys can see here in the photos, they just look a little bit more cohesive. And if I'm going to give a couple of them away as sets, they work really well as a set because all the colors are the same. So those 2 of those are going to go to my mother-in-law. She hasn't gotten any of my weaving for quite a while, and so I thought 2 of them will go to her because they're like perfect for her kitchen and her house. Her house is all blues and browns, and they're her favorite colors. She likes peach. These are all the colors of her house. So yeah, so 8 towels done. One of the towels, and I don't know if the photos already cycled through, but one of the towels I was playing a little bit with color and weave, but to be honest with you, it was taking too long. It was just a little bit too slow, but I alternated through the entire towel, light, dark, light, dark. So it's light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. I'll go to the big camera for you guys to see that. Light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. So some of the weft floats are dark, and then the other ones are light. So light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. That's the right side here. You can really see it in the peachy, browny cream color. And then the warp floats on the back come out looking like that. See if I can get it into the light for you. So then on the back, it's all the warp floats, and they're all the same color, because you get the light, dark, and the color and weave effect on the right side, which is the weft floats here. I thought it was really pretty. They kind of, Huck, once you wash it, it gets like sort of a bit of a pucker to it, because the plain weave, the plain weave is sort of, it bends to accommodate those floats, and the effect is always really pretty, and it almost kind of takes on a little bit of a flower-like appearance. So they almost kind of look like little flowers. And you know, when you look at some of the color and weave effects that you can get with Huck, it's pretty incredible. Tom Knisley has a book that's all about Huck and all the color and weave effects that you can achieve. And all you really have to do is extrapolate what he's got there, because he gives you the draft and the treadling and all the stuff and the light dark sequences. And then you can extrapolate from there and make it bigger and figure out what you want to do with your border. Because the nice thing with Huck, you can always get plain weave. So you can always have a plain weave border on all sides. Because like M's and O's, for example, if you have plain weave borders on the side of your weaving, you can't have it at the hem. So there's like different sort of compromises that you have to make with some of the different weave structures. But with Huck, you can get plain weave. You can always get plain weave. So it really creates this lovely border at the bottom. This is all plain weave, and also on the sides, which is all, I put in plain weave on both sides to sort of act as like a border. It was just a really fun, just playing with, you know, if I put this here, what happens? And if I put this here, what happens? So yeah, it is really pretty. So the one with the bright blue stripe, I think if I had done the entire set of 8 with the bright blue, and like done all of them really super scrappy, it would have worked really super well. But to be honest with you, I didn't have as many bobbins to use up as I thought I did. And I just really liked the cohesion of sticking with the warp colors in the weft. So it worked really well. Like some of my family members, they wouldn't like the scrappiness of this, whereas like my mom would love it. So it just depends on like who it is. And I did pull off a piece at the end to give myself a sample so that I could see and also show you guys what it would have looked like if I had done tabby, float, no, on this side, tabby, float, tabby, float, tabby, other tabby, float, tabby, float, tabby, and not had the plain weave in between like I did with the wefts, with the spots. So this is the spots because they have the plain weave in between, and then these ones it's just straight Huck, and it would have been, the whole fabric would have looked like that all the way down. You can see how it plays on the blue and how it plays on the brown. Really pretty. Both are equally effective. I had been recently chatting with a weaver who she weaves professionally, and she weaves production cloth, and she had mentioned that weave structures like Huck give her options because for the most part it's plain weave, and for a lot of production weavers they can't earn enough because there's too much treadling variation unless it's basically plain weave. And so she was talking about how Huck, because it's one of the more straightforward, she uses it sometimes, even though plain weave is where she can actually earn money, which is really interesting. So yeah, that gets into a whole other topic around like, you know, valuing handmaids and all that kind of stuff that we don't have time to get into today. I really like the framing from the plain weave. Me too, Charlotte. I like stuff like that. Like I like the plain weave on the outside and you know, that it's on the top and the bottom. Like this is just the sample, but imagine this is one of the towels. I like that. And if you fold it into 3, like, and it's hanging there on the thing, you know, you've got that little bit of plain weave at the bottom, and then when you open up the towel, like it's just really, it's really nice. I think it looks very, very polished. What kind of draw in do you get with Huck? So this on the loom, I don't have a measuring tape here. You do get draw in for sure. I calculated with this, I don't know what my actual draw in was, but Dorothy, I can definitely find out because I can look at my notes and I just don't have them right here. But I always calculate about 10% with Huck, whereas like with my stoles, I barely got any. It was like not even 5% draw in. And I don't know if that was the merino nylon, the pattern yarn held the cotton out and didn't allow it to shrink like it normally does. I suspect that's probably what was happening. Whereas these, I lost at least 10%. And I'll double check for you and I'll tag you in Slack. And then she has the question, more than tabby and less than twill. I'm not sure in relation to what, Dorothy, sorry, are you talking about the production weaving? I like how this is turning into a Welford Weaves episode. So funny story. I was looking back at all of the episodes that we've done this year and all the stuff that me and Rebecca have done. And I did not record a Welford Weaves episode this year at all. I stopped at episode 13 last year. I think it was this time last year that I released the last episode of Welford Weaves, and I was really hoping, oh yes, Dorothy, you're absolutely right. More than tabby, less than twill. Absolutely. I was really hoping this year that I would be able to free up some time to start doing Welford Weaves episodes again, even if it was just once a month. That has not happened. So it is on my list for next year. We will see. But that is definitely one of my goals, because I do miss recording those, because it just gets some of this stuff off of the regular podcast. So, because I know not everybody weaves, and not everybody wants to weave, and not everybody has the opportunity and the space to weave. I would like everybody to weave, just because I think it really enriches your knowledge, and it really, coming back to the weaving and the spinning and the knitting from weaving has been priceless for me. But I know that that's not always realistic for everyone. And so sometimes waxing poetic about some of these fabrics and some of these structures, it's like zing, zing, zing. And that's not fun either. So I totally get it. I totally get it. The last thing that I was going to share with you guys is I do have another warp that I'm winding. And I am hoping to get this on my Louette spring, maybe later today. But how fun are these colors? So this is a like a variegated 8-2 cotton, and it was very expensive, hence wanting to sell some of my towels over time to sort of cover some of these costs. And I put it with this dark slate gray, and these are for the Confetti towels, which is a draft and a pattern from Webs. And I totally took inspiration from Mickey online, and because she is so inspiring with her weaving and what she does with her weaving. And so I've been winding the warp, and the towels look like that. And it's a turned M's and O's. So I will report back about that structure in the future and explain that to you guys. Because the nice thing with turned M's and O's is, once again, you can get plain weave hems and plain weave borders. So again, you've not got some of those restrictions, and you don't have to make some of those compromises that you do with M's and O's. So I will report back. All right. Let's bust into community participation, because we're getting on in time, as we always do. And I'm excited to share with you some of the stuff that you guys have been making. It's always a pleasure. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the other side. So funny story. Evie Soros says, I don't really weave, but I just like the math content. It's really interesting, because that's actually one of the things that drew me to weaving, was the math. I really like math. I'm not bad at math. It's not, it doesn't come really, really super naturally to me, but I like math, and I'm willing to work through it. And that's actually one of the things, was that more technical aspect of weaving. That's what really like drew me in, for sure. Yeah, that one I know is working, because it's old. That community credits, I've been running it for years now. Maybe not years, but long enough that I knew that one was working. It's the new ones that aren't working. All right, let's talk about what's going on in our community, because we have a lot. So we've got our Corespin along. It's going until December. We're just encouraging people to give it a try if you've never tried it before. If you have tried Corespinning before, try it again. And also push yourself, do something new. So this is from Marina. She had 2 bats. One was spun as a regular 2-ply, so that's the one that's closest to me in the photo. And the other was her first Corespun yarn. I'm surprised I like it. I'm not sure what to use it for, but it's pretty to look at, all the add-ins popping up randomly. I love it, actually. For the core, I used a single ply sock yarn that I had attempting to make socks from twice, but its thinness really convinced me to frog it after years of hibernation. Just beautiful, Marina. Gorgeous. And it's fun to compare yarns, like to spin something one way and then to spin something another way. You could probably use them together in a project if you're a weaver. This is from Rebecca. This is coming up on the wool circle. She's got experiments with spiral plying. She's also been playing around with coils, so definitely tune in next Tuesday for what she's been working on. A little bit of a teaser there, you guys. I'm sorry. This is from Crystal. She says corespinning is a really flexible technique, and it can produce some very different looks depending on how you draft. With these spins, I used the same bat. So there's another slide after this one that shows you all the different ways that this came out, which is really cool. So for the first yarn, I didn't use my finger to tamp the fiber down on the core, but she just allowed the fiber to wrap on its own. To draft, she pulled her fiber supply back almost to the point of breaking, which creates a soft, fluffy yarn. And then for the second yarn, which I'll show you guys in just a second, but you can see it there. So the first one is on the left there, and then on the right, furthest away from me, she used her finger to push the fiber down on the core, creating a smooth, lustrous yarn. I like the description. I like to describe it as a woolen versus a worsted version of Corespun. And I think I have more photos here for you guys. Yes. So you can see on the left, right down below here, that's the fluffy one where she was drafting it way out almost to the point of breaking. And she wasn't tamping it down, but you can see how different and how much more twist there is in the smoother kind of worsted quote unquote one, and how different they are after washing. Very cool. Thanks, Crystal, for sharing. This is also from Crystal. I love auto wrapping. If you guys have not tried auto wrapping with thread, definitely give it a try. You're carrying the yarn in your pinky as you're spinning the rest of it, and it's just wrapping around as you go, almost kind of at random. You can end up with sometimes loops and twists. Sometimes it goes back on itself. It's just a fantastic technique. And Crystal got some absolutely gorgeous results here. And these are some other things that Crystal's been doing. It's been so fun to watch her and Rebecca because they've had some opportunities to play, the two of them, that I just haven't had a chance to do. And it's been really fun to co-run this with them as they've been playing. This top one closest to me, I love super coils. You guys know how I feel about super coils. And this one almost kind of looks like beehives. So if you look at the bottom one photo there where you've got the yarns lined up, and you've got the 4 yarns one after the other in the bottom right hand corner from left to right. The first one is normal thread ply with even tension on both plies. So it'd be like a traditional 2-ply kind of thing with the thread and the Corespun. The second one is a gimp ply with slightly more tension on the thread. And then the third one is a spiral ply where all the tension is on the thread and the single is wrapping at a 90-degree angle. The other photo that's really clear is the top right-hand corner. You can see the 4 yarns, one after the other. And then the final one is a super coil. And of course, super coil is just, oh my gosh, the effect is just fantastic. Yeah, and it's cool to be able to see the photos next to each other and to actually see the yarns, because sometimes it's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to actually see them side by side by side. So I hope that that photo in the upper right hand corner and the lower right hand corner, that both of those are really helpful to start to visualize what these different yarns are. When we say a gimp ply, or we say normal thread ply, a spiral ply, a super coil, that's what we're talking about. All right, there's been a lot of fiber prep in this group over the last few weeks. It's been really cool to see. We do have a channel on the Slack channel that's for fiber prep. This is from Charlotte. Isn't this fleece amazing? I had fun sorting out and washing 7 ounces of this nice little Jacob fleece named Lammy today. I'm leaning towards blending the lights and the darks together since the fleece is only 3 pounds. I can hardly wait for it to dry to sample a bit, and may have to get out the hair dryer. Absolutely beautiful, Charlotte. I think you can't go wrong either keeping the colors separate or spinning them together. It's just beautiful. This is from Kat. I usually avoid flick carding locks like the plague, but this black Corriedale is amazingly soft. It has wonderful crimp and brittle tips and a rise. It's one component of my current spin for a cardigan from a 1920s pattern. Isn't that yarn beautiful? It almost has a bit of a marl effect to it because of the nuances in the fleece. I just loved that yarn. I might not have time to spin yarn, but I have time to ogle yarn. This is from Eveline. Working on Rolex for a new sock spin, Shetland and mohair. It will be the first strand for a 3-ply yarn, and I'll add some greens and purples to the second and third. That's going to be beautiful. Love seeing that, Eveline. Year of Color, we've got lots of people still working on Year of Color. In Virtual Spin Group, we were talking this morning about people still working on their color wheels, and they're looking at some alternative colors for the red, yellow, and blue to kind of mix it up. Some people are working on magenta, cyan, and yellow. Lots and lots of variety, which has been really cool to see. This is from Susan. Isn't this incredible? This next project will seriously challenge me and tell the tale of what I learned with the Year of Color. I'm sorting through bags of odds and ends that a retired fiber artist sold me by the pound. I have bins of full balls also, but thought this blanket could be a way to use up the little bits. Plus, it will use some of my dye experiments, and I'm excited to get going and play with these colors. Plus, how many sweaters can one knit and wear? Exactly. So this is the pattern is the Arts and Crafts themed patchwork blanket by Violet Green. That blanket is absolutely gorgeous. Actually, what drew me to it was the birds. If you notice in the middle, there's a block at the top and a block at the bottom. On the second row, and then on the second to last row, there's the birds. One she did in orange and teal, and the other one she did in like a creamy white with the red. I almost went and like got this pattern just because of the birds. For those who know me, I love birds. This is from Megan. I was lucky to be a winner of one of the color wheel fiber bags provided by Rachel for the Attune Shawl Spin Along Knit Along. I carded the fibers to mix and got a temporary fiber bouquet. Isn't that pretty, the bouquet there? And then I carded a bit of white or black into each and spun some singles. So much fun. Thank you, Rachel. You're so welcome, Megan. And what beautiful spinning. Gorgeous spinning. Love that. And I like that you stretch the fiber. That's really, really effective. Very cool. This is from Suzanne. She's got this big spin that she's working on. She finally finished her combo spin that many of you have seen me working on over the last several months. Now I just need to settle on a project. I have more than enough yarn at over 2,000 yards DK weight, since I think I overestimated my fiber needs. The little skeins at the top of the photo are samples, and with leftover singles from the half of the combined fiber I set aside for singles. I had used fiber from singles for sampling. Gorgeous. Amazing, Susanna. I like that little chain plaid sample. I think that's very cool. Yeah, it'd be neat to see the two swatches, one in the chain plaid and one in the 2-ply, and see the difference between the two swatches. All right, general makes and shares. So this is from Diane. I love this. Here's the fin something. She thinks it was llama. Silk I finished spinning this morning along with the 100% fin that will be its companion in a to be determined project. Aren't those beautiful colors? Love that. Love that. This is from Eve, spinning beautiful cashmere. Gorgeous spinning there, Eve. This is from Eveline again. She's got another Shetland sock spin done. This one was 20% silk for strength, and she thinks it will be very warm. This yarn, Eveline, is beautiful. Total 125 grams of fiber, 330 meters, 3-ply. For now, I'm going back into the stash. I just finished a bunch of socks, but it can wait and I can focus on my sweater. I know what it's like too when you have those spins that just feel endless, like they're just never going to end. It's just a beautiful testimony to sticking with it. Gorgeous. This is from Lisa. I need to ply, but I don't want to. Of course not. That's gorgeous. I like that spindle on the bottom, the Halloween-y one. So cute. And from Courtney, my spindle works in progress. She's just been doing 15 minutes a day, and yeah, look at what you can do. Just beautiful. Love this. Like beautifully wound cops. You don't have to wind your cops like that, but man, they're gorgeous when you see them wound like that. This is from Pauline. I bought 3 bats of local sourced wool, practicing my supported long draw in spinning. First of the 3 bats is spun and I plied it. Beautiful plying, Pauline. Is it Pauline or Pauline? I'm curious. Gorgeous spinning though, and I love these colors. All right, we've got a little tiny bit of weaving. This is from Loreline. I had to share these. I just thought this was so cool. She's doing these hexagons, and they're on her turtle loom. She was working on them in Fiber Prep a couple of weeks ago, and it's just so much fun. She's been doing them out of hand spun. I think her plan is to sew them together as a blanket eventually. She's just gonna keep amassing hexies. We have a theme here with hexies, you guys, because Rebecca's doing a hexie blanket. But yeah, really cool. Very cool. So thank you guys for sharing all that you do. It really, it's really fun for me to be able to see what you're working on, and so many people in the community, they come as learners and they grow and they grow, and it's so much fun to see you guys blossoming and just coming into your own when it comes to all of the stuff that you're making and creating. It's really amazing and so life-giving for me. I hope you have a wonderful couple of weeks. For those who are part of the Wool Circle, we will see you back here, same time, same place, next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. And in the meantime, I hope you get a chance to do something creative, whatever that looks like for you and whatever that means. So have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.